back to the Knicks part of this. Everything that you're saying about the East is totally right. That is such a bad sign for the Knicks because Detroit, I love the season that they're having. We all have questions about what their viability is as a finals team. Boston, the East is wide open because of Boston's injuries, right? That it starts there. Cleveland, we talked about our concerns. After that, who cares? The Knicks season has gone perfect for them in terms of injuries. They add a really good guy in Alvarado at the deadline. They couldn't have asked for anything better here for the Knicks in terms of a situation. Lay it out. This is all happening. Detroit is the number one team in the East. If you would have told the Knicks all of this stuff before the season, you said, "Oh, and we're healthy the entire time," how they would have been flabbergasted that they were third in the Eastern Conference, and right now again fourth on the sports books in terms of coming out. If they don't make the NBA Finals, I think it is a massive failure for the Knicks.
It is a massive failure. It was here for their taking right then and there, which kind of brings a couple of things here that I would throw out. And some of this, listen, I'm going to apologize, folks. Some of this is going to be a little bit unfair on my end. And that's sometimes it's just the thoughts in my brain. And I recognize that it's unfair, but I look at it and I go like, maybe you shouldn't have fired Tibbs, right? Like they haven't figured out the offense. You know, Cat's having a pretty down year there. I was pissed off with the offense last year, right? And wanted to see more and stuff and used Mikal Bridges more. Maybe they could have found a different way to kind of get Tibbs to add more offense, because now that you've thrown in a whole new system, it hasn't looked the same, hasn't looked right across the board. And then when you're looking at the situation, it's just the defense isn't quite what it is. And the defense was always going to be a problem. Listen, you're starting Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. That's two non-defenders. Let's just be honest. And there are going to be problems in the playoffs. There are going to be targets. Teams are going to set a screen to get Brunson on the ball and then bring Cat's man up. And you can try to pre-switch. Then the guy you pre-switched with is going to come up. Like it's going to be a cat and mouse sort of thing that we're going to see, which is always fun in the playoffs and things that are fun to kind of watch for. But that's a problem, right? Like there's that stuff. And then it's just like hubris is always the biggest problem. And I look at, I don't know what the record's been since James Dolan's interview a while back of like, we should win the championship this year, which was already wild because that was right in the middle of OKC's run of like, I think
Looking
it was
unbeatable.
right around where they were like 24-1 kind of deal. And everybody's like, you're not beating OKC. I think that's kind of the all of those things kind of have come down to them where they really thought, and they should have, this is our year, and this is our year to get to the finals. And it really hasn't come together in the way just the fact there were trade rumors about Cat going into the deadline is just a bad sign.
Yeah. If I'm with you that the Tibbs firing was probably a mistake. I don't know that hiring Mike Brown was also a mistake if you were already starting with a mistake. To be fair to Mike Brown, like one of the criticisms of Tibbs was that it was too Jalen Brunson Cat centric. Well, Mike Brown he expanded the offense. There's a lot of Mikal Bridges in the offense now. The problem is that Mikal Bridges can't make a layup and can't take advantage of it. Is that Tibbs' fault? Is that Mike Brown's fault? I don't think it's the coach's fault. That maybe you can look at the Bridges trade and say maybe there was a mistake there. OG Anunoby's got to stay healthy, and when he's out there, he's got to do more, right? Instead of just standing in the corner and waiting for the ball to come to him. I do think that there's other things there that go beyond the coaching.
I would say this. It is hard when you're bringing in a whole new system, right? And everybody has to buy in. And it seemed pretty clear, especially early on, that Cat didn't really buy in.
Yep.
Right. And that became a problem with that. And even now, every now and then you hear things about his touches and things like that. And you're like, okay, that's actually not really a good sign. You don't really want all that stuff. My thing was when you fired Tibbs, Mike Brown wasn't much of a different hire to me.
Right.
And that was actually like to me, and that's not Mike Brown's fault. That's not a Mike Brown problem. I just think if you're going to fire Tibbs, you just kind of hired Tibbs light.
Yeah.
In that sense. And I think that kind of like, I would have wanted somebody and a little bit more versed offensively than even Mike Brown.
Yeah.
In the way they're doing it. And yes, they needed to change their offense. Maybe it wasn't a wholesale change that they needed in their offense. They needed to just tweak 20% of it, 25% of it. And it didn't have to be so Jalen Brunson and Cat centric. Whereas if they will give up 25% of the pie, that'll be enough. Right. And I think that's kind of where it's at. And I can't believe I'm defending Tibbs because like that's a world I don't like living in. But it's just I when you kind of look at this, and of course hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
You have to kind of look at it, go like, I don't know.
Would they have been better off going in like Jordy Fernandez, Jordan Ott, type of direction with these younger coaches? I will say this: the one thing that Tibbs did do really well in New York, and you know this, Mo, this is something that maybe has been taken for granted in New York for a long time, keeping the focus on basketball. Right, I thought Tibbs did a really good job. Like, there was so much drama around that Knicks organization prior to Tibbs that he came in and was just like, "No, we're gonna be a basketball team that talks about basketball. I'm not even gonna entertain this outside stuff." Mike Brown, to his credit, has done a really good job of continuing that. I think both Tibbs and Mike Brown get a lot of that credit. That's hard for, I think, a younger coach to navigate. Right. That said, they definitely you need a little bit more inventiveness, and it feels like with the Knicks they just feel stale, and right now they feel like they don't necessarily have an identity, which is a really big problem, and that does come down to coaching a lot of times.
And I'm not putting this on like, oh, Mike Brown's a bad coach. Mike Brown's a great coach. Like I don't want to put that in. I think he was put in a bad situation.
Yeah, I think that's
with what they kind of in the instance of that. Now, great that he's getting paid nicely, so maybe it's not that bad of a situation. But like, I think there's an element of it's a lot harder. And he came in and he's done what we've all wanted, right? Let's diversify the offense. And it's just not kind of providing. So that's where I say when it's hindsight's 2020, maybe we were all wrong and it just needed a tweak of the offense and they didn't need to fully change it. Yeah. And I mean that, and myself included, in that I was wrong in the way I looked at it with that.